Hello and welcome. Welcome to my home and welcome to my sacred space that I prepared for us today. I'm Olivia and this is Tarot and Coffee with Olivia, here to do your daily pick a card. Now, you know what? I do want to tell you very much how much I appreciate you. In fact, I could write a whole paper on how much I could do a whole video. If you'd like a whole video of me talking about how much I appreciate you, let me know in the comments and I'll totally do one. In fact, I can do a whole 30-minute video on that. So anyway, we have a lot to go over today, and this is quite a reading. In fact, I should tell you in advance that I had to get out my Bible for this one, and we're not going to do a thought of the day. Instead, this first card is going to be everyone's thought of the day. It's a very powerful card. It's the Tower, and you may have seen this before if you're any kind of familiar with the tarot. You might be afraid. Don't be afraid. This isn't a scary card today. In fact, when I see this card, if I'm thinking in biblical terms, I often think of the Tower of Babel and how a bunch of people tried to build this tower to heaven and God got mad, and then there was an earthquake or whatever and the building came down and everybody spoke in different tongues and they all kind of wandered away from each other. No. It's not that scary. This we're going to move on to Pentecost. And if you want to refer to the readings that I did this morning in the Bible, they are in Acts. ACTS. I will post in the description of the video the actual scriptures that I'm speaking of, okay? But for now, I'm just going to tell the story, okay? So these little tongues of fire, right? You know, they happen to be in the shape of the Hebrew J. And, okay, so what happened was, this was after Jesus died, after Jesus rose again and left again, okay? This was almost a whole year after his death. And the apostles and some other followers of Jesus, about 120 in total, were hanging out in an upstairs room of a place. And a big old wind came through. A lot of people say that represents the Holy Spirit. In fact, we'll talk about that a little bit further as we go on. The next thing you know, there were tongues of fire running around in the room, landing on people's heads, or at least that's the way I read it. It seemed kind of crazy and confusing. However, as they were speaking to each other about this funk phenomena, they were like, oh my gosh, there's this fire on your head. Oh, look, there's fire on your head, or whatever it was they were saying. They suddenly realized that all this group of people, several of whom spoke different languages, were all hearing everyone speak their own language in their own tongue. Meaning, whoever was hearing in their own language. Whoever was speaking may or may not have been speaking in a different language, but people were hearing. I just noticed I have a bunch of ink on my hands from writing my notes. So if you see that, don't get scared. I probably have it on my face too. Okay, so because of that big hullabaloo, or during that hullabaloo, let's say, Peter stood up and he said, hey, this is what's going on. This is the prophecy. I'll let you read that part anyway. Because of that there's a little bit in there about Peter talking, and you can read that for yourself. Because of this hullabaloo, and because people were understanding one another, meaning a great understanding in one another, over 3,000, is that right? Yeah, 3,000 people were baptized because they could understand each other and give one another an understanding of their beliefs and what Jesus taught, which is what? Love, right? We all know. He brought a new commandment. Actually, the only commandment you need, because if you're practicing the love of God and love to one another, you're not doing things like killing or stealing or cheating. Okay? All right, so see what I said? See what I mean by this is kind of heavy. I'm still not done with this card. Let's keep going, okay? So these people that you see here, don't be that it's not as scary as you think when you're thinking of this card in this way. In fact, these people might be choosing to fly. They may very well be flying. So it's all about strength and understanding one another, okay? These people are at a place between heaven and earth. They have a chance to fly with the spirit or fall. You know, it also makes me think of that track on the roller coaster, like when you're up on your first, when you've been climbing and you're up on your first go down, or like right before you jump out of that airplane when you're skydiving your first time. You get ready, you got your thing on and everything, and you're getting ready to jump, and maybe you have a person that's jumping with you. But even atheists pray, oh my God, please let me live. Or it could be that first jump of your bungee jump, that first little apex where you're just scared shitless. You know what I mean? That part. So that's where you are right now, but you have a chance for a deep, especially with the Holy Spirit as a guide, a deep understanding of someone else and their belief system as you explain yours to them, and possibly a meeting in the middle. So what is this card telling you today? With all that, it's talking about that really scary time right before something great happens, right before something really powerful happens. And that is in this day, in this thought of the day, it is understanding one another, understanding one another's belief systems, understanding one another's languages, so to speak, their love languages, if you want to talk metaphorically. So this is a card of finding balance where there seems to be none, finding the truth among confusion. Okay? All right, so that's our thought of the day. And now is time for you to go ahead and pick your card. I am going to have a sip of coffee. I hope that you have a nice cup of something, tea, coffee, or hot cocoa, Ovaltine. Okay. That's an old joke from an old movie that probably nobody got. But that's okay. So, okay, let's look at the card toppers. So we have the I guess I'll call that a kidney bean, a glass kidney bean. And then we have the Buddha frog. I'll bring him up close. Actually, he's not the Buddha frog. I think he's the Paramahansa Yogananda frog. It doesn't matter. He's the only frog. So we're going to say the frog. And then we have the green square piece of glass here as your third card topper. So go ahead and take the time that you need to pick your card. And in the meantime, if you need more time, go ahead and pause the video and take all the time that you need. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and pick up the card that's under the kidney bean, and we're going to talk about what your mission is today, should you choose to accept it, and even if you don't. So this is the Six of Swords. Now, there's a lot going on in this card. You have your masculine self, you have your feminine self, your child self. You have the water that has to do, well, we can go over all that all you want. But the water often has to do with emotions, feelings, and the subconscious, okay? And it looks as though they are transporting from one place to another. So the translation of I'm looking at my notes and I'm having trouble reading them. That's why I'm pausing. Okay. So, this coupled with the Tower card, it really does make me think of, instead of translating from a piece of land to another piece of land, it's almost like translating a language. But they're all different languages. We have body language. I mean, you don't have to, I'm not necessarily talking about being a language translator, okay, so to speak. I'm talking about being a mediator between worlds. If you have this card today, then you may be a mediator. You have an understanding of your masculine self, of your feminine self, of your child self, and that is how you can relate to others. And now, swords often have to do with communication, and swords often have to do with choices, and swords often have to do with all kinds of things. I didn't write it all down today, but that's okay. So, one of the things I want you to notice is he's using his pole to move things along. So, if this is your card today, I would say to you to get to the bottom between differing opinions. You may be asked to do this. Somebody may ask you to mediate, and or you may ask for a mediator in dealing with someone else today. And or you may use the Holy Spirit as a mediator. You can always call on the Holy Spirit to help, especially with understanding when people are having trouble understanding one another. So it's really interesting how this card really goes with the Tower today, and that's why I made the Tower the thought of the day, because I am going to integrate that card, your card, with the Tower. I am speaking to, with each definition of each card, I'm reading it along with the Tower, and that's why we're talking about communication again. Okay. So figure out what's important to you. Listen to others. Listen, 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 listen. And then listen some more before you speak. That's your card. If you chose the kidney bean. Now, if you chose the Paramahansa frog, your card is the King of Wands. The King of Wands. The King of Wands has a lot to do with fire, has a lot to do with passion, has a lot to do with doing and action. And this card is also with the salamander. We have the salamander here and this cloak. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's salamanders also all in the cloak. Salamanders, and we think about salamanders in the fire, right? So this makes this card, coupled with the Tower card, a transformation card. And this is a card saying this transformation is not going to be as scary or as difficult as you may think. As you are the salamander, you are the salamander. You are prepared to go through this fire, go through this transformation, and undergo this huge thing, this trial by fire. Here's the thing. You're already prepared, so go and achieve your heart's desire without fear. And what do I mean by prepared? Well, I mean that you've been coming here to these tarot pick-a cards, of course. Well, I mean that you're representing as the King of Wands. And I think I already put this together with the Tower, and that's why this King of Wands is coming through as a powerful transformation, which it does without the Tower in some cases. But with the Tower, it is telling you that you are prepared for this transformation. You have prepared. Let's see what's under the green glass today. The Chariot. Another very powerful high card. And let's see if I prepared very well for this. I don't even think I wrote anything down. I didn't. That's okay. So the Chariot has a lot to do with the conveyance of your, it is the conveyance of your journey, your life journey. That's what journey we're talking about. Now, fate is when you get going real fast and you can't really stop. Okay, sometimes you can't stop the trajectory of where you're going, but you can change direction if needed. Okay, so remember that. Also, remember that it's not about the destination, but about the journey. And in being the Chariot, it is, the journey of life and not necessarily an easy journey. And with the Tower, which is the big transformation card, I feel like while you may not reach your actual destination today, thinking about the journey as the goal, I would say, when I see the Chariot in readings, I often think about the charioteer and how much they have prepared not only themselves, but their gear as well as their horses, very, very much prepared and trained for this. So again, we have a very similar message than that we had with the king, that you are prepared for this transformation. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. And I think it's very interesting that we got these cards today. Like, I could not keep them singled out and read them as each individual card. I had to group them with the Tower today because they all really mean something together today. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this reading. To me, it was a very powerful reading. I hope I was able to convey that to you. I hope you found just what you needed. Of course, if you didn't, leave it. It's okay. All right? Do take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Don't make life-altering decisions or changes based on this or any other tarot pick a card. But do connect with me on my social medias linked below. And as I said before, I'll put the scriptural references to what we talked about today in the description of this video. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you like this. Give me a thumbs down if you didn't like that. I would love to hear comments about my biblical references. This is not something that many card readers do. However, especially with a Rider-Waite Tarot deck, it is very biblical, and it's really almost an effort to leave it out for me. So yeah, comment on that. I'm probably not going to change having biblical references, but I am interested in what you think. And last but not least, subscribe. Thank you guys for being here. See you next time. Love you.